Welcome to the Impressa Era podcast, a realm where intuition flows through real life and your personal power is celebrated. I'm your host, Queen Impressa, and together we'll explore tarot, self-mastery, sensuality, and aligned growth. Now take a deep breath, relax your shoulders, and let's get into it. Welcome back to the podcast, my loves, the space where you're allowed to come home to yourself, where you're invited to lay down the weight you've been carrying, and are reminded that you do not have to earn your rest, your softness, or your truth. I want you to take a moment with me before we step fully in today's conversation, because I know how easy it is to move through your day on autopilot and to consume without actually receiving anything and to just listen without being fully there. So I want you to roll your shoulders back, unclench that jaw, take a slow, deep breath in through your nose and release it gently through your mouth, allowing your body to settle and your mind to soften. Because this episode is a moment of reflection, honesty, and being seen. As we've stepped into Mental Health Awareness Month, and at the same time we're approaching Mother's Day, there's something about this intersection that deserves a deeper, more intentional conversation, because while the world often presents these moments in like a very polished and celebratory way, the truth is that for so many people, this time of year carries a huge mix of emotions that don't always feel easy to name or express. Yes, there is joy there, there's gratitude, but there's also grief, longing, confusion, and sometimes a real quiet heaviness that sits beneath the surface while everything around you feels like it's moving forward in a completely different emotional tone. So what I want to do today is create a space where all of those experiences are valid, where nothing needs to be minimized or reshaped into something more digestible for someone else, and where you can just sit here and exist in your truth without feeling like you have to edit yourself for the comfort of anyone else. Mental health is often talked about in ways that feel so surface level or honestly not taken any seriously at all. Like it's something that can be easily defined by whether you're doing well or not doing well, or by something you can just turn on and turn off. But I think a lot of us know that mental health is just far more nuanced than that, because it lives in those quiet moments, in the way that you process your experiences, the thoughts that repeat in your mind, in the way your body responds to stress even, and in the way that you speak to yourself when no one is around to hear you, or even when someone is around to hear you. It's in your ability to regulate your emotions and to create boundaries and recognize your needs and to give yourself permission to exist as a human being instead of this constant source of output for everyone else around you. And that's, many of us were taught how to survive and push through and how to just be dependable, right? And how to show up no matter what. But a lot of us weren't taught how to actually feel safe within ourselves, how to process emotions in a healthy way, and how to prioritize our own well-being without guilt. And that gap is something that continues to show up in our adult lives in ways that are deeply impactful. And I speak by experience. I'm still learning too, so I'm here with you on this ride. When we begin to layer motherhood into this conversation, or even the idea of motherhood, the complexity deepens in a way that deserves to be acknowledged with care and honesty. So I want to go over everyone that is included in this. If you are a mother, if you are not a mother, if you choose not to be a mother, I want everyone to be able to have a seat at the table in this conversation. So if you are a mother, you're often placed in a position where you're expected to be the constant source of stability, love, patience, and support, even in the moments where your own world is falling apart, right? It does not feel stable at all. You're still expected to anticipate needs, to regulate others' emotions that are not your own, to provide the comfort, the protection, and to do so in a way that appears effortless, right? Even when it's anything but. There is this narrative that suggests that motherhood should feel fulfilling at all times, that love should override exhaustion and that sacrifice should come naturally without question. But the truth is that motherhood is both beautiful and demanding. And all of those truths can exist at the same time without canceling each other out. There are moments in motherhood where you feel completely connected, where you look at your child and feel a love so deep it shifts your entire understanding on yourself. But there are also moments where you feel overstimulated, exhausted, and need a space. You need your space in a way that feels so hard to articulate without feeling guilty. And there may even be moments where you question whether you're doing enough, whether you're being the kind of mother you want to be, or you're losing parts of yourself in the process of showing up for everyone else. And those thoughts do not make you a bad mother. They make you a human being navigating a role that asks so much of you. And the more we normalize that reality, the more we create space for mothers to be supported instead of silently struggling under the weight of unrealistic expectations. And I do hope if you can hear my daughter screaming in the background, just know she's okay. She's with her father, so she's totally fine. They're doing bedtime right now, but it sounds like they're doing some playing with her stuffies. So at the same time, I want to speak directly to the women who have chosen not to be mothers, because your experience is just as important in this conversation, even if it's not always centered in the way that I think it should be. There's such a deeply rooted belief that womanhood and motherhood are inherently connected, that fulfillment must include children, and that choosing a different path somehow means that something is missing or incomplete. And that belief is not only super outdated, it's limiting and dismissive of the many ways a life can be meaningful and deeply aligned. Choosing not to be a mother is not a lack, it's simply a decision, one that is often rooted in self awareness and a deep understanding of what feels right for you. And I think that deserves to be respected without question or assumption. Your life is not waiting to begin. Your magic is not dependent on stepping into a role that doesn't align with who you are either. And then we have the women who are navigating the space of wanting to be mothers and facing challenges along the way. And this is a space that holds a very specific kind of emotional complexity. It's not always visible to those who have not experienced it. There's hope, there's longing, there's anticipation, but there's also this uncertainty and grief in the moments where the journey just feels heavier than expected. You might find yourself celebrating others while quietly breaking down inside, or questioning your body or your path, and you may feel like you're existing in a space that doesn't have a clear timeline or outcome. If this is where you are, I want you to know that your experience is valid. Your emotions are real, and your worth is not defined by what has or has not happened yet. You're not behind, and you're not failing. And you are not alone in this, even if it may feel that way at times. For those who are carrying grief, whether it is the loss of a child, a mother, or the absence of a relationship that you wish had been different, this time of year can bring those emotions to the surface in a way that feels very intense and sometimes unexpected. Grief is not something that follows any kind of timeline, doesn't respond to logic, and it doesn't disappear, simply because the world expects you to move forward. It exists in layers and memories and in the quiet spaces where you're left with your thoughts. And you're allowed to honor your grief in a way that feels supportive to you. You're allowed to set boundaries around what you engage with, and you're allowed to move through this time in a way that prioritizes your emotional well being over external expectations. Now, I want to bring this conversation into the space of magic because, number one, that's what we're here for. But this is also where your power begins to take shape in a way that feels intentional and supportive. Magic is not about avoiding your reality or pretending that everything is okay when it's not. It's about meeting yourself where you are with awareness, compassion, and care. Your magic is in your ability to check in with yourself honestly, to recognize what you're feeling without judgment and create space for those emotions instead of pushing them aside. Your magic is in your boundaries, in your ability to say, like, this is what I need right now, and to honor that without feeling guilty. Your magic is in your self talk, in the way that you speak to yourself when things feel difficult, and in the way you choose to respond to yourself with kindness instead of criticism. So, as we move through Mental Health Awareness Month and approach Mother's Day, I want you to create intentional moments for yourself that feel real and accessible. I want it to feel like something that genuinely supports you. So, this could look like sitting with yourself in silence for a few minutes, journaling your thoughts without filtering them, okay? There's no need to filter your thoughts as they come out. It is just simply for you. I also recommend lighting a candle and setting an intention to hold space for your emotions. And if you don't want to do any of that, that's totally fine as well. Just allow yourself to rest without feeling like you need to justify it. These moments don't need to be elaborate to be meaningful for you. They just need to be honest. I also want you to be mindful of what you're consuming around this time because your environment plays such a big role in your mental health, and that includes what you're scrolling through, the conversations you're having, and the energy that you're allowing into your space. So if something feels triggering to you, you have permission to step back and to create a boundary and protect your peace without having to explain it at all. And that's something that I learned growing up is that I don't need to explain my decisions to anyone at all. They're my decisions in my life. And this isn't avoidance at all. This is self-respect. And the more that you practice it, the more you strengthen your ability to support yourself in this way that feels very sustainable. So as we begin to close this conversation, I know it was a quick one, but I didn't want to go too hard on it this week because I know it is and can be triggering and hard for some people to talk about. But I just want you to carry this truth with you as something you allow to settle within you. You're allowed to exist exactly as you are in this moment without comparison, without justification, and without the need to reshape your experience to fit someone else's understanding. You're allowed to feel deeply and process it at your own pace, and to define your path in a way that aligns with who you're becoming. And I said this earlier, but you are not behind. You're not missing something that everybody else has figured out, and you're not alone in what you're feeling either. Your journey is your journey, and it's unfolding in its own time. And your willingness to show up for yourself within that journey is where your true power lives. And this is where it all comes together. Mental health is so important when dealing with magic and witchcraft and hoodoo and anything else that you decide that you are a part of. Mental health plays a very vital role in your practice. So, starting with yourself, showing up for yourself, loving yourself, that is the base, that is the foundation to successful magic. Thank you for being here with me. If you've gotten to the end of this and you've listened through, I truly appreciate it. Thank you for allowing yourself to be present during this podcast episode and for choosing yourself in a world that often asks you to do the opposite. If this conversation resonated with you, I want you to hold on to that feeling as a reminder that you are seen, supported, and that you are doing way better than you think. So until next time, baddies, continue to honor yourself, protect your energy, and step fully into your Impressa era with grace, strength, and magic that has always been yours since birth. Bye, lovelies.